Welcome to Archery Country Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to Archery Country Podcast. We are up here in our brand new studio for Archery Country Podcast, which I think is going to be our home for the next many. And we're sitting, this is a holy dill pickle. This is going to be a hot topic because this is brand new right off the press. This is a podcast that is going to step up and take probably precedence over all we've ever done because we have a new system. We're part of a new legacy, I guess you could say. We're going to be talking today, as you've already seen on your phones or wherever you get your podcast, about the company called Kanati. We are in the studio with Mr. Nate Hilla and Mr. Joe Sunderman and Mr. Jake Slungen, the owners of Kanati. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Doing great.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting, and we're going to take quite a few different avenues to get to the main street before we get on the interstate and this thing takes off. As we said, building your legacy. Kanati is a company that's going to aspire to anybody out there that either A, owns land, B, in the market for land, wants to make their lease land better, or in cooperation with whatever they may be doing on hunting land, conservation, making your land better, building your legacy. And that's just a very rough collaboration of everything that it does. We're going to dissect this thing into so many categories that you're going to want to turn up your volume knob. You're going to use the reverse 30 seconds quite a few times to hear things. There's an awesome website that you guys, that we will actually going to link this to it, and there's going to be some video of going through what we're talking about. But Nate and Joe and Jake, like we do in all of our podcasts when we have new guests, you're not new to us at all, but you're new to the listeners that are tuning into this. Give us just a brief explanation, not a total life history, but where you come from, how you got there, and what inspired you to take this on full-fledged. As we start with Nate, if you don't mind.
Well, Kanati was a vision we had a long time ago. It was a land management system that we talked about and thought about. My background is in the last 20 years. I've been dealing with land in the conservation field, as a land surveyor, as an engineer. I've done public speaking across the Midwest on conservation issues. I've been a hunting guide for the past 10 plus years. I've been a lobbyist in Washington and St. Paul for some of the same programs that we're going to talk about today. So I've got a wealth of knowledge, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I hope to learn from you as well. So I'm here to help all landowners out. Kanati originated from Native American. Obviously, when you hear Kanati, you think of Native American. Came from Cherokee. My dad, who was kind of the patriarch of archery hunting in this area, where I grew up, has been gone for 20 plus years now, and he had a very sentimental attachment to Native American culture. And then when we think about land, it's spiritual. So the legend behind Kanati and the vision behind the name is the fact that Kanati was Cherokee for one of their warriors that would go out, and when people wanted to hunt, he would go and he would unroll the rock, and he kept all these animals in a tomb, and the animals would come out and everybody would harvest them. So essentially, Kanati, we're teaching people to hunt. We're giving them the rock. We're giving them the tomb. And then when we unroll the rock through land management, this land management system, we're helping you out.
Excellent. Excellent. And you talked a little bit about, you have been a guide for many, many years. You also been an avid archer, avid hunter, not just whitetails, but all around the clock, I guess you could say, on that. So you have not only a extensive past, but something that you're very passionate about, and now incorporated it into a job, where we're building relationships with landowners. And I guess sometimes we get caught in that it doesn't have to be the landowner, but the land tenant or whoever is utilizing that property on that. But Joe, as we skip across, you're directly across to me and we say this, you have a little bit different past, I guess, and present as we talk about it. I didn't ask you, Nate, where you're from, but it's right here in central Minnesota.
Yeah, sure is.
We got the accent. Joe, you're from around the area?
Yes, I'm central Minnesota as well. I grew up a farm kid. I always hated milking cows, so I skipped out on it. I was always in the field. I was in the shop fixing something. You couldn't find me close to a barn. So if we weren't working in the fields or whatever, I would always we were always hunting. So kind of the same passion, just the outdoors, hunting, fishing. We wanted to be doing something outdoors. I worked the past 25 years now. I've been an auto mechanic, but I also have been getting back with Kanati now, back into the tractors and getting in the fields, helping people out. Kind of brings two things, the auto mechanic I can help out with if we have broken equipment or there's always something that goes wrong, kind of think on the fly, be able to figure things out.
But your past allows you to become not only the student of the land, but now, certain situations involve certain things as far as equipment and different practices as far as planting and spraying, and you're licensed in a vast array of things, which incorporates and puts you as a pretty big part of this system.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much if we're going to get something on the ground or any of the implementation side from no-till seeding to planting, any timber stand harvest or improvements, I'm involved with it to get basically plan it and a lot of times getting it done.
And I know there's going to be some listeners right now that are lifting up their ball cap and scratching their head and going, well, where is this going? Why? Everything is going to tie together because we talked about, there's so many different channels on this segment where we're going to utilize individuals, your expertise and Nate's. Jake, you've been on many, many podcasts, not only as the owner of Archery Country Podcast, but also give us just a little background. For many people out there, you've been doing this ever since you were little, itty bitty, from your dad building the company and now you branching off and doing other things involved in that. But give our listeners, your hunting background a little bit, also your farm, you come from a farm, and then what you're utilizing, before you stepped in with Kanati in the ring. You've been putting some of these practices, and it's something that you've actually gone from just a hobby now to something that you're exercising every day on, your land tracks all over Minnesota.
Yeah, for me growing up, I grew up on a small dairy farm growing up, and that's what I wanted to be when I was a kid. I wanted to be a farmer, and I love the path that I'm on. I'm involved in archery every day around hunting people. Like-minded people, have made friends all over the world because of archery. But this kind of brings me back to, I got into archery because I got into hunting. I went and got a bow because I wanted to hunt on our farm when I was a kid. And that kind of brought me into it. As I've grown older and been able to get my own land for hunting purposes, I've been able to implement a lot of practices with trying to build better habitat for hunting, trying to build better situations that are easier to hunt, and that passion. And I spend a lot of time sitting on Onyx all year long, designing food plots, designing where my tree stands are going, how I'm accessing it, when I'm going in there, where I'm putting my trail cams. And this is just kind of a combination of my love for the sport of archery, my love for deer hunting, my passion in the conservation and farming part of it, and kind of be able to put something together that can help people out if they're in need of a service like this.
And I think that that opens up the book now, and we can read on. Nate, you did a great job of explaining just a little brief summary of what it is, but let's break it down. And I'm not going to point at any of you guys. I want this to be go ahead and interrupt each other. Kind of a sales pitch for the next, couple of minutes. That what is Kanati? What does it? So our listeners now are okay. I have an idea of what we're talking about, but what is this company do to them? And then we'll kind of branch off of that on what it can offer, because we're going to have to break down each segment quite a bit. But what is Kanati?
When I heard Jake talk just now, and some of the reasons why he's doing what he's doing, think about what you just said. You talked about, I wanted to hunt on my farm. How important is it for people to protect that legacy? And Wade, you talked about it when we started, building your legacy. So around that land, we're here to help you build that legacy, whatever that legacy happens to be. You know, we talked about Kanati and all these things that we can do, but how can we help you build that legacy? And we help you in any way. We're licensed real estate agents. I'm a licensed real estate agent. We can help you with conservation programs to give you a big overview before we dissect in each one of these segments. We can get you enrolled in programs, conservation programs that we've been working with for the past 20 years to help you improve your land and have that sentimental attachment Jake talked about with the farm so you can pay for it. So those kids and those grandkids have a place to go. They have a place to hunt. They have a place to enjoy the outdoors. And then we have Joe to fulfill that vision, to take that vision from planning real estate to planning to conservation programs to fulfilling that vision and getting it done.
And building legacy, I'm going to steal a quote from Roger Moody. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 95, we have something for each and every one of you. And you may say, well, what do you mean 5 years old? Building the legacy. Your parents at this point. If you're 95 and we're done farming, we're done with the land, it's time to pass it on to our kids or grandkids. We have a perfect opportunity where we can fit your needs, rather it be suggestions or a plan. Joe, when it comes, if it's a standard food plot, layout, research development, what works, what grows. Not only food plots, because you could be, your goal coming into this could be, I want to shoot 180-inch deer. Or your goal could be, I want to see 18 deer every set. Or I want to become a better hunter by learning from what my land offers. And it could not just be whitetail. We could be talking turkey. We could be talking pheasant hunting, duck hunting, wetland conservation, everything on that aspect. You, Joe, have the ability to add to this. And a major issue is because I think sometimes as outdoor enthusiasts and archery hunters, our season starts in September and ends in the end of December. You can utilize different food for all of that. We also can consider, we overlook the word screening. We overlook the word, and I'm going to stumble on my own, but, your timber, like your involvement with, cutting tree rows or having bedding area, establishing bedding area. Jake, we've been on some podcasts with food plot companies where we've learned different things, and you've now have your 2 chunks of property that you can run completely different, and you do different things. So when you say what is Kanati, that's just kind of a rough idea, but it will fit almost there's something, and you guys agree with me, you have something for almost everybody.
Yes. Yeah, I think you forgot the 85-year-old woman that wants wildflowers in her backyard. She's maybe got grandkids that want to get into hunting, and, through that education process, conservation and hunting are not mutually exclusive. They work together. And I think it could be anybody from somebody that wants to improve 5 acres. Just down the road, for example, we helped build a piece of property that was 4.66 acres, and we just shot our 15th deer off of that this year, which happened to be a 120-some-inch 8-pointer that my son shot. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if you own 5 acres or 5,000 acres. We've got something everywhere in between that we can help you with, whether it's finding the 5 acres, putting that 5 acres in habitat, or making it the best 5 acres possible or 5,000 acres possible, and then fulfilling that dream and building that legacy.
So you use the word dream. We're all realists here when we talk about that. When somebody has or in the market to purchase land or is inherited a chunk of land or still farming the land like a dairy farmer and all that, but with YouTube videos and social media and pro shops and archery shops and everything around there, they want to become better. They want to make something better. And it's not just getting the great equipment to harvest the animal, but you have to collectively bring everything together. we answered what it is, but now let's step down, and this is where the website's really going to come in handy for those of you that are listening to this, and you can scroll down, and Nate, you have it pulled up as well. What do we offer as Kanati, as a company? We're kind of generalizing everything, but let's, okay, from real estate, you're a licensed real estate agent. If somebody calls us up at the shop and says, hey, I want to get in touch with the guys at Kanati, or they get a hold of you and I'm looking to purchase land, but I have no clue. Boom, we turn it over. So however you want to break it down, all three of you guys, let's run down what we have to offer from start to finish.
Yeah, I think it really starts with the free consultation part that we do.
What'd you say?
Because, well, part of my involvement getting into this is there's a lot of land management companies out there that won't tell you anything, won't do anything for you unless you pay them. And to me, that isn't the way to run a business. That isn't the way to create relationships with people and show them what you can do. So, this is such a wide cast on what we can do for somebody. It really comes down to a conversation of what your needs are, but the free consultation will start this, so we can help you out and identify your goals. Because that could be anything from helping you put a food plot in, helping you with some food plot seed. We do wildlife management plans that could be centered around hunting. It could be centered around, deer hunting, could be centered around deer turkey goals, could be centered around pheasant goals, conservation goals, where we can take and lay out a full plan. And Nate can kind of talk a little bit more about how those plans are done.
So, it stems from, if you do have that legacy you want to create, we go out and we visit with landowners. So the first thing we do is call them, or they call and inquire about a plan. We do a free consultation. And I did one a couple weeks ago, last Monday actually. And I went out with the landowner and he said, I want the best deer hunting possible. And through their conversation, we found out a plan was best for him. He's asked questions like, how do I get into my deer stand? Where do I access it? What winds do I hunt those deer stands on? What do I put in for food plots? How much food plot? How many acres do I need? So that plan is essentially involved around a site visit. So we've got a drone. I'm a licensed drone pilot with the FAA, and we can fly drones and look at their property from above. We use that site visit, that walk around their property, and let them give them an opportunity to give us a tour. Through that process, we talk about their goals. We do a lot of listening. I'm like to talk. You probably know that about me.
Yeah, that's why we have you on here.
But that's where we do a lot of our listening to our customers and our clients. What is it that you want? Through that site visit, then we figure out what really their goals are. And that plan then is generated around those goals. And within that plan, we put maps. We give them detailed narratives on how to do things. But I think the most important thing with the plan is it gives them a vision. It gives them a vision for, in year 2022, these are the 5 things I need to do. Year 2023, these are the 5 things I need to do. So it helps them vision and helps them plan out what those goals are. And whether or not they need Kanati and Joe for our other services or Archery Country for some supplies or whatever, we give them that plan that they can utilize. One of the other most important factors to consider within that plan that we've most recently been really targeting is some of that income earning potential. So we talked, what is Kanati and how can we help? Well, we can really help anybody at any income level as well. So if you've got somebody that's really, working hard, and Wade used and I use the term dream, or the word dream, we can help them by offsetting some of those land costs with program dollars. Maybe it's not something that they can afford, but as an agent and in real estate and in land planning, we can help them identify those programs that will help offset costs for them, whether it's taxes or whether it's program dollars that will turn around and pay for the land. So within that plan, there's all these other details about how they can accomplish their goals on their property.
And I'm going to put big asterisks behind that, because this is something that opened my eye the first time that we got to meet with you guys. Is coming from an agricultural background in cattle farming, and that there's some programs out there. I had no idea that there are programs or plans that you guys can incorporate into hunting land. And we're going to talk, I want to go into depth on that.
Yep.
But a great, pertaining back to that dream. So just kind of bringing everything back here to the cart. A free consultation, whatever it may be that your dream, air quotes, is. Like Joe, it could be simple as I have the land and I have the deer. What food plots can I utilize? It does, might not be anything on conservation or putting in a wetlands or establishing anything like that, because they're still row crop, but they utilize, you can go in with your past and yield monitoring systems and seeing like they have a lowland that flooded out. I'm going to use what Nate talked about previous. It's been, crap for 3 out of the last 4 years, drought, floods out. You have the idea just with a free visit to their property, and then you can incorporate this into a plan and present it to them and say, and it opens up some eyes that, there's more than just maybe buying the property. There's a lot of things. Explain a little bit about, some of the past experiences you've had, the visits that you've had, where it may not be a huge, plan, but it's something that is grown from, year 1 to year 3. Now you're involved with setting the stands and going about that.
Yep. And that's where we can look at a property, and just as you said, if there's that low area that's crappy or whatever, maybe we can get it back into a wetland. We can help the farmer or the landowner, whoever, find money for it, try to get them into a program that they can offset the costs for it. We've done a lot of the bee and butterfly habitat. The seed alone can be up to $500 an acre, and we can find seed cost for them. We can recover some of those costs. Brome conversion, just on a lot of the plots, from spraying to the tillage, all that stuff, it can be very expensive. But at the end of the day, if we can offset the cost or help you find some programs, it makes it a lot easier to justify doing those plans. We found this is a landowner up in northern Minnesota. We're doing a oak savanna, replanting, I think, 3,500 acre or 3,500 trees this spring. We helped them we found a program that they can get tree tubes, cost share on those as well. So there's a lot of different things out there, but you kind of have to do digging for them.
And that's where Nate experience comes in. He knows where to look, who to talk to.
Yep.
And pertaining, which is a great example, and I want more and more and more of this, but sometimes people will see a television show and they're hunting over a nice sugar beet plot and it looks beautiful and all the equipment. It's hard just to go buy the seed and rent a rototiller and put it in and then have that beautiful, sometimes it works, right? But let's be real. A lot of times it doesn't. And then you feel defeated and you don't get the outcome that you want. Here's a free consultation. Here's a program where we have an expert that has farmed. I'm not going to ask your age, but you've been farming a long time.
Yep. And
you know certain things that are going to, you got to spray it this time. Maybe we got to kill this section off. Maybe where I wanted this kill plot or food plot isn't even in the right area. I think with the right approach, the right relationship, you're not going to offend somebody, on their property, because it is, in the end of the scheme of things, this is a service and it is their property.
Yeah, and that's where same thing as Nate said, we figure out what their goals are. We go out, we talk with them, we get to know them. They might have a sprayer on the back of their four-wheeler, and they maybe want to do that on their own, but maybe they don't have a no-till seeder, or maybe they have a seeder, but they don't have a tiller. So we kind of figure out what they need and where we can help. Sometimes they don't need any help.
And sometimes too, like you're helping a guy right now that wants a drill in the future that he'll get from us, but this is a way for him to learn with Joe how to run it, how to put the stuff in, what's going to work for him. And so there's a transaction in the middle there where we're helping him out and helping him educate him and help him what he gets or what he needs too.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jake. He's debating between a couple different no-till seeders, and we have a couple different brands.
Mm-hmm.
But and some are better in some areas. Some are, it doesn't. Some do better with native seedings. But at the end of it, we figure out what his goals are, and try to help him. And I'm going to give him the experience. And if he wants to try it out, get his hands on it, look at it, I'll come out and give him the time so he knows what he's buying at the end of the day.
And if something messes up, he's only a phone call away.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So you talked and you used the word relationships. And there is nothing, I would consider myself an ambassador for conservation, an ambassador for Kanati. I think my wife's so sick about me talking about Kanati, and Joe too. When we meet people, that's what excites you in life. We meet these clients and we talk about, you just said the word, Wade, relationships. And that's what it's about. I think Joe's talked to this guy about no-till cedars more than he's talked to his wife in the last week. My point is the fact that at the end of the day, you become acquaintances and friends. I had a conversation with an older gentleman who's been all over on Sunday. I was driving up and I did a site visit up in northern Minnesota. And on my way, I drove by this property. I said, I'm going to give Russ a call. And Russ said, feel free to use my name and use me as a reference, but it's relationships that mean something moving forward. He can always call, and he knows he can pick the phone up and call anybody at Kanati. And he said, that's what I appreciate about you guys. And but we also are learning something from them. It's relationship based, and you can call anytime.
And I think, Jake, your involvement in this situation and this company now, being a pro shop owner for many years, we utilize the same sentences and the same way of life, I guess, building a relationship, figuring out what the customer's needs on a much smaller basis pertaining to archery. Correct?
Yeah, and I think it's, I think it means a lot to all of us here, just what this legacy means and what the land means. And I think a way to kind of, like, the way I feel about it is, I have a 2-year-old boy, and he was tracked 5 deer with me this year with Grandpa on a couple of them. And to me, that's what Kanati is about. Like, exactly. How can you spend time with your family? How can you do things you love? And how can you do things in the long term with your family? And it's the same as, like, when somebody comes into the shop, the family aspect or your friends and the things around you is what makes the sport great. And this is kind of what we're trying to bring to the land management part of it. And it isn't, it isn't us talking about we know everything and we're better hunters and everything else, because that isn't what it's about at all. It's really a group think type exercise. Bring in the science behind this. How can we make it towards your goals? But be able to, on any aspect, be able to help you accomplish, by setting up the team we did, your goals to help build that legacy, to help that outdoor time. You have a couple boys and your brothers and your dad and your family, and how can you make that all better for all of you?
And a perfect example of it is this: Minnesota has what we call youth season, right? So I have 2 boys. One is old enough to hunt, and then I have 2 nieces, my middle brother. We have done a lot of work to, as far as our knowledge, to make our farmland the best possible hunting land, from trail cameras to getting help with Jake on setting stands in different situations, planning different food plots for different situations. And this year alone, we shot one of the target bucks. My oldest niece shot her biggest 8-pointer, 138-inch 8. And my youngest niece, who's 10, shot another 8-pointer. And my son, with a crossbow, shot his first deer ever, all within 2 days, youth season. The selfish part of me, 10 years ago, before I had kids and all that, I've been like, oh, who is on our land and shooting these deer and blah, 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 blah. But that was one of the coolest feelings in the world. Not only my boy and his success and seeing their eyes and like you say, doing the track job, letting the kids do it with their lights and figuring out. And here's a program where we keep saying legacy, but building a situation. And I think, and you guys agree or disagree with me, in the year 2022 that we're sitting here, more consumers, more customers are more open, as long as we have that relationship, a stepping stone to the top. They're more open to getting knowledgeable answers, getting an end result faster than trying to figure everything out on their own.
Well, and there's something here for everybody. I look at, like, my piece of ground up north. Like, if I bring Kanati into that as a consumer level, I don't need help with my food plots up there. I don't need help with setting a plan up there. But I want to plant a bunch of trees. And Nate can help me out to figure out, hey, how can we plant these trees and how can we get cost share and how can we get them in the ground and be successful? And Joe can get up there and get it done. And I think part of it is there's so many different things we can do to help here that it kind of feels like, right now we've been doing this for half an hour here and we're kind of like, what is this still? But we can do something for everybody on their land to help their conservation goals.
And I think it goes back to, we talked initially when we started about a system, and that system may be a component of a larger system. So it's just finding out, as Jake mentioned, what works for you. But leading off the youth topic, which we're very passionate about here at Kanati. So youth, I'm even talking about 60. My mother-in-law, she's 72 years old, and I worry when I drop her off in the stand that I turn around and she's going to shoot me with the arrow. But my point is
for what reason?
Mother-in-law.
So I put her in the stand, but the point is that she's purchased the property to be able to create that legacy for her kids and grandkids. We want to be successful. We want to have food plots that are successful. So as Wade, you talked about with your kids, they're successful so that they continue to do these things. It's our romantic idea of the potbelly stove and the 1-bedroom cabin with the loft, and the kids talking about, they're not on their phones, they're not on computers, they're not on iPads. My kids will drop everything to sit in a stand and go out deer hunting. Now that they can drive, they're going on their own. Even the boyfriend, Carter, we're getting him into hunting. He needs some help.
This is, Jake, you opened this up perfect. If you don't mind, Nate, I know you have many, many examples, but you and Joe talk about this land. I think it's a perfect structure, and you can paint a perfect picture. The South Dakota property. Take us down that road just a little, from what your consultation, meeting that individual, and what that story right there. If I was a consumer, and again, it's not a sales pitch, but it opened my eyes to, this is what they can do.
So this gentleman called me. He's got a job. He works in IT in Sioux Falls. And he called, and he's inherited the family farm. And he said, I listened to you guys talk, and I've done a little research on your company. He goes, can you help me out? Through the free consultation, we identified the best way to help this gentleman is through a habitat plan. So I drove out to South Dakota, which I love going out west, especially in South Dakota. I've been hunting and guiding there for quite a few years now. I love the open country. I get there, and I drive up to the farm, and it's an old beat-down farmhouse that you can tell nobody's lived in. And he has that old barnwood, when you see that old red weathered barnwood that you want to see on the side of your house or inside a room in your house, he's got that all over. His buildings are leaning. And out of the truck comes him and his 2 kids.
Speaking of that barnwood, that's $148 square foot at Hobby Lobby right now in Maple Grove.
My wife's like, what's he going to do with those things?
He was already sending me out there to tear the barn down.
Which, Steve, if you're listening to this podcast, I did mention that we would take them down for you.
I'm not involved in that. I've torn down enough barns.
Yeah, Jake, where's this tin on the roof from?
Yeah. So we walk around with his kids that day. And he talked a little bit about his number one goal was, when I sat with him at the cafe, and normally part of the site visit involves either coffee or sitting down after the site visit and just talking through some things. And he said, my number one goal is I want $3,000 in income. Well, what this landowner had been doing since he inherited the land, and even his dad had done, it says 1976 since they purchased the property, was they've been leasing it to a local grazer. And I drive out there and I look at the site, and it is nothing but overgrazed pasture about 2 to 3 inches tall at most. The only thing standing is thistles. And he said, how do I get better hunting? Well, that's an easy answer for any habitat specialist that says, well, you need more cover. But he also had income interest. He said, how do I get that income? So I made a bunch of phone calls to resources that I've got contacts with out there, and found a program for him to enroll his north 80 acres. So picture this. It's a quarter section, about 160 acres, with a farmstead and all pasture and some ponds. It's remnant prairie that's never been tilled. I found a program for him to enroll the north 80 acres in, which would give him a payment of $700 to $1,000 an acre. That way he can build a nest egg for any habitat improvements he wants to do on the south. On that south property, he can do food plots, tree screens. He actually asked about bee and butterfly habitat for the farmstead. And we've got, at Kanati, we've got a relationship with some folks that'll provide the seed at no charge. Those are the types of things that we can offer landowners. So all of those improvements, that north piece that he's gaining that income from, is going to improve in pheasant hunting, which was his second goal. It's going to improve in deer hunting, which is his third goal, and it's going to help with duck nesting habitat, which is his fourth goal. So we were able to achieve all of his goals through that plan moving forward, and then develop that entire south 80 acres into a hunting paradise using food plots, tree screens, and so on and so forth.
So is this in progress or it's done?
It is in progress.
So are you doing the work?
We're working on getting him some seed, working on getting him enrolled in programs.
Okay.
I had given him a step-by-step, here's what you're going to do this year. Here's the 10 things you need to do.
For him to do.
Okay. Yep. And I gave him phone numbers of physical people that I've talked to that said, send Steve our way. So those are the types of things that we can help establish for you, and that baseline. So they already know, because when you're looking at conservation programs, especially in all areas, I talked to the DNR. They sent me over to Pheasants Forever. That sent me to the Natural Resources Conservation Service. We bridge that entire gap and make it simple for you. We talk with you, and during that site visit, when we listen to you, we kind of figure out which are your goals. And before we leave that site visit that day, you have a good idea of what we're planning for you. So,
and I think it's a great example. Go ahead, Joe.
It comes down to, we like to get to know the people. We talked to them. I was doing a CRP seeding this fall, 35 acres. It was just a standard CRP, putting it in. And as I got to know the landowner, he's looking at retiring, and he's trying to figure out how he could get some money from his property to be able to sell it to his son, so his son could afford it. And I said, there's programs out there, and he had no idea. And he has a prime piece of property that is there's a nonprofit out there that will most likely give him money to protect it because it's highly erodible and it's along a river. So those things like that, he had no idea. He didn't look at those programs. He didn't know what government agency to look or call. So we're going to help get him in touch over this winter here and see if he wants to enroll on it. So like I say, it comes down to getting to know the people, talk to them, because they sometimes have no idea that these programs are out there.
And again, you're not figuring this out and then just dumping it on them. Like you will do follow up, and let's say he calls this number or you called this number, and yes, he's eligible for such and such many acres. And then there's another step, and then there's another step, and then there's another step. And the program is here. The company is here for that from start to finish.
So you mentioned that. That's a great point, Wade. And one thing we didn't really touch on yet is that if you're a landowner and you get the plan, you say, you know what? I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't even have time to do this. Kanati, can you handle that? And yes, we can. We can help get you enrolled in programs through facilitation and being the point of contact for you. So if you don't have time, the knowledge, or time to handle this, we can certainly handle it for you. That's a service that we offer at Kanati.
And Jake, kind of to add to this whole pot that we got boiling right now, there are other pieces of equipment that we can offer in situations. We dabbled a little bit on this about box blinds and setting stands. And let's say we have a gentleman that works in Plymouth or lives in Plymouth and works downtown and has 17 days off a year, and they want to use that for hunting. You have the equipment, the knowledge, you have the products. Let's say you guys established a plan and you needed, You have availability for 2 box blinds that you can utilize for rifle season and early or late season archery. And then you can set up a Xenix blind over here, or you can set up, whatever tree stands here. It's not just being a salesman. But you have the knowledge.
We can help them pick out the product. If they need those blinds set up, Joe can go out there, put the blinds up, brush mow the trails in, and get everything ready to go. I mean, we can go as far as they need trail cameras out. We can set trail cameras out. We can do as little or as much as a person needs.
And I don't know if there's a company out there that does this. There's some big ones that pop up whenever you do a Google search for hunting property. They may just be the real estate situation of this, and then here, you can call this guy. But realistically, you could make one visit to one of our pro shops to start this. The phone call or emails will be transferred over, and then Kanati gets in touch with you, and then Joe or Nate or Jake or all 3 of them visit you at your property. And then from there, you can go... And another thing is you can utilize situations, because we've all been in those situations. Let's say we're early season over an alfalfa plot, whatever it may be. If they're still using it for agriculture, how do I set a blind for this? How do I set a tree stand? You're going to have 2 or 3 different winds in that month period where early season and patterning, whatever the target animal may be. You have the knowledge, and then you also have access to the products.
Oh, and it can be any part of it. I mean, it can be as simple as, Joe had an individual last fall that just needed help spraying. The weeds got away from him. He didn't have time to get there. He had the food plots in, picked up the phone, and Joe was able to run out there and take care of it. So it's, it could be a full system to taking everything to you're having a problem with a food plot and you can't get something to grow and you need some help. Or you need a blind put up and you don't have the equipment to put it up. It's a full system, like Nate was saying.
And then Nate as well, let's say Joe Smith, whatever, has 600 acres and wants to do a wetland restoration project. He's going to get some kickback, and we're going to find ways to pay for a small portion of this. Now, if he called and talked to you and Joe, you might not have the excavators and the scrapers and all of this, but you also... general contractors for the land, I guess you could say.
Essentially, yes. So if we can't do it, we will find somebody to do it for you. So you use the example of weight of a wetland restoration. As much as these 2 over here, Jake and Joe, I'm looking at you 2, big dreams,
We love equipment.
Jake's like, I wish I was a farmer. And Joe's like, I was a farmer. And they want to run big scrapers and all this stuff. But God help us.
I forgot to tell you we bought a semi.
Oh, shut up.
I'm just kidding.
But the point is that we have contractors and we have a network of individuals that will help us do those things that we don't otherwise do, to complete that entire land management system. For example, on our property here in Central Stearns County, my in-laws had the one where I was worried about getting shot in the back by my mother-in-law. We put in...
Just got to add to that.
I don't know. That's funny.
Oh, you want this?
So we put a wetland restoration in. We found government funding to pay for some of it, and we put a water control structure in. So helping landowners, we can identify ways that we can raise and lower that water level for ducks, for nesting birds, for the deer. I mean, there's ways to pay for all that stuff, but we identify contractors that can do that work for us.
Another tool. Joe, I'm going to throw you under the bus on this one. Okay, farming background, Jake as well, Nate.
Yeah.
There's you got to walk softly around some farms, some established farms, because row crop is an income. And, we've seen it from the big boom 10 years ago till now. Every tree row in counties around are gone. You have the expertise to say, okay, you guys plant corn here and soybeans here and wheat and winter rye for this. Every tract of land that you can benefit still acquiring that row crop, still getting your income from it, but utilizing certain inside corners or, like we talked about, the low spots. But, you can go in and look along with Nate and just fly the drone and look things over or drive it with side by side and say, okay, here, you're still going to yield the bushels that you have yielded for the last 20 years, but you can utilize a food plot here or a screening over here, or, things that the average farmer may just think, well, it is what it is.
Well, the biggest thing right now is cover crops. I mean, you can put cover crops in, get paid to put them in, and a lot of times cover crops are your turnips, your radishes, basically your food plot seeds. So it kind of doubles, you can be gaining soil health, which is huge right now, get away from all your synthetic fertilizers, and put in cover crops, and now you also have great hunting. So there's a lot of different things that you can do just to benefit from it. So.
Yeah, and it narrows it back down to is it fits we got something for everybody. I keep saying you guys have something for everybody. It could be an established farm. It could be an overgrazed cattle ranch or farm that, what can we do? You could buy, we're going to go, this leads us right into the real estate question that I have next. But there's chunks of land from here where we're sitting and all the way up north that when you drive by it, if you don't have a outdoors wildlife eye, you may say, well, that's shit ground. Think completely opposite. That could be the best property with a little bit of help. You can turn something that doesn't look good into something that's great with the knowledge, having experiences where deer, maybe, or turkeys where they're roosting, where they're feeding, and also utilizing. Like, okay, if I brought you, Nate, to our farm and, you get to talking with us and you understand what's going on, you're going to have questions like, well, what do the neighbors do?
Yep.
A situation like that may came up where not only is it growing the company, but it's growing the relationship from landowner to landowner to landowner. So it's not always button head. Oh, the Joneses, they shot that deer that I've seen for 13, months and got a relationship. Well, maybe you guys can work together and utilize everything.
Yeah, so we've done some work with hunting cooperatives, which are maybe a new concept, working with folks to identify, hey, are there ways that we can work together? How can we pool our resources? And there's a lot of conservation programs, Wade, and listeners, that you can enroll together. And it helps you, it helps your score, because a lot of these programs are scored and ranked. If you can pool your resources together, whether you agree or disagree on how you manage deer, it's the idea is you want to create the best hunting and conservation and habitat possible. And there's definitely some benefits to that.
I got to ask you guys this before we carry on. Your beliefs, are you making a better deer herd, turkey flock, or are you singling out animal, like in your personal opinion, the practices that you you install in some of these land management systems and everything, are you growing the experience? Is that your number one goal? Or are you seeing that you're with that? This is kind of a double-edged question. Where are your goals for your gentleman that said, I want to have better deer hunting? How?
The number one concept that we talk about with landowners is diversity. Diversity on the landscape leads to a higher carrying capacity for wildlife. That means I've got a wetland here. I've got 2 acres of grass over here. I've got 3 acres of trees right here. The more diversity you have, the better deer hunting you have. But the better turkey hunting you're also going to have. The better pheasant hunting you're also going to have. The better, you're going to see more monarch butterflies. I think the more habitat you have, essentially, the better wildlife is going to be. The more diversity that you have. So I think the number one buzzword for wildlife habitat and your property would be to create that diversity.
Exactly what I wanted as far as the answer. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Real estate, the one-stop shop for everybody, right? Is it as simple as calling and saying, Nate, I have this for a budget and I want this for my dream. Make it happen?
Yes, it can be. It's as simple as that. It depends on your goals. Again, you look at your goals. What are your goals? Do you want more deer? Do you want big deer? Do you want it to offset costs? So again, it's a free consultation. It boils back to what Jake originally started with. I want to talk with you and get to know you and your family. What does your significant other want? You know, I want to be close to lakes. I want to be close to this or grandpa's land, or, you know, your number one goal might be, I want to offset all the cost and income earning potential. So it depends. It's as simple as, here's my budget. Here's my acreage limits. You know, here's the location that I want to be in. But I think it all boils down to that conversation. It also boils down to that building of that relationship.
Jake, when you took on this, I used you as an example, and we don't have to get totally into it, but like what you've done with your property, I think you've owned it for 3-4 years.
Yep.
Not the home property,
Yep.
but your other property.
Yep.
When you came to Kanati and now a partner in this, was it the same core beliefs because you pretty much did it on your own?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same? You see it from different situations all across the board? Because your land is now very, very successful, and you've grown it that way.
Yeah, I think number one, before I was involved, I went through the whole thing. I wanted to see what Kanati was about. I went through a plan. I did the whole thing. And that really gave me kind of an inside look to what I would want as a customer of this. And kind of changed the way that I kind of looked at it a little bit too. You know, because I don't believe that I at that point I needed some of this stuff, but there was other things I definitely needed that I know that I wouldn't have found without it. You know, Nate's expertise in the programs and trees and all of that stuff, you know, helps fit the bill for that. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of losing on that question a little bit, but yeah, you know, it's to me, it's just helping people get their goals and helping people be a little more successful, and helping someone maybe get another family member into it, maybe get their one son who isn't into hunting as much, then, you know, maybe he likes to be out and be part of the conservation part. Maybe he likes to be part of the food plots, and it isn't the hunting part that's as exciting for him. But maybe him getting successful and growing a food plot and kind of being hands-on a little bit, then all of a sudden he enjoys the deer hunting part because now he's working for it and seeing what he can develop. And to me, like, that's a lot of what the whole thing is about. Like, I'm super connected to hunting on our home farm up there, wherever, year round. Like, I'm always watching what's going on. I'm always planning for the next thing I can do. You know, this time of year I might be in the woods, you know, doing timber stand improvements, doing other things that I couldn't do other times of year. You know, in the spring it gets right into food plots and into those other things, and going all the way through the season. So I think it's just that connection to the land.
I think incorporating your family and doing that. You ever seen a kid drive a tractor and seen the smile on their face?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, they're out there with you, whether we help or we can educate you to do it yourself. It's all about spending time with your family and friends in the outdoors. You know, get a case of beer, come up, work together, and then it comes full circle when you're dragging that deer out in the fall together, or it's your son's, you know, 8-pointer, or it all comes full circle, and that's when you really appreciate everything that you've done. And again, it boils down to spending time together as a family and as a friend group. And again, it goes back to relationships, whether it's relationships with Kanati or relationships with each other as family members, but it's all around being successful in the outdoors.
So we've laid out the feast. We've built the fence. Now, how do they get in touch with us? We have, you guys have a great website, which basically I encourage every one of our listeners, if you can't do it when you're listening to this podcast, at least get on there your 5 minutes at work or at home before you sign off for the day. Like, the website is very, very, very thorough and gives you examples on that. But also, Jake, talk a little bit about how we can utilize the shops in Brainerd, Waite Park, and Rogers.
Yep, and you guys can go in, talk to any of the guys about it, get you in contact with, you know, Nate, Joe, myself on it, you know, and help you just figure out what we can do for you.
And the basis of why reason I implemented that is because the pro shop can be more than just selling the bow or the target or the tree stand. Now we have another tool it's not a big banner hanging in the corner. It's not a free display where you can take stuff. Like all you have to do is say, and we, you know, when you guys came and talked to us about this, we all had customers in our mind. Like they've asked for the last 4 or 5 years, what food plots or what can I do? Now we have an answer. Now all we have to do is basically give you a phone number and email, and they will take it from there.
Yeah, and like to me, there's nothing cooler than you helped a customer out with their bow. You helped them out with a food plot. Now maybe you helped them out with a box bind, and now their wife will actually sit with them because she's not freezing. Now she's getting into it. You know, their kids are sitting there with them in the box bind. Well, now you're not fighting about, hey, I'm going hunting this weekend. Now everybody's going, you know, and now it can be something that can be a tradition every year. Everyone gets ready. Everyone goes and does their thing together.
I tried that last year with my 16-year-old daughter, and she said, I'm never hunting with you again. I'm telling her to be quiet. There's a doe standing 10 yards away. So I said, fine, do it yourself tomorrow. And she shot a doe. So she's like, see, I can do it myself. But that's, again, that's a 16-year-old daughter.
You guys are very busy coming up, but you're an open book. There's nothing hidden on this. You'll be straightforward, you know, as far as like the plans. Knowledge is the key here, and I think that's a big thing that people are getting off of this podcast is once you visit with Joe or Nate or Jake, you know, there's a lot more behind just the smile at the door.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you know, one of the things I want to kind of, you know, point on a little bit is there's so much YouTube information out there with so many different techniques that are, and Joe can really get into, could get into this a little bit more even, you know, that are in Missouri, that are in Illinois, that are in southern Wisconsin, and then people try to implement those techniques in central or northern Minnesota and fail. It's just, you know, you can't have the same agriculture practices there as you do here. You can't have the same food plot practices. And that's, you know, what we're doing here too is like on the plans, like it's a group think exercise. It's not one person's opinion writing that plan, because we all believe that having experts in each one of those things, if you're writing a plan on pheasants, we want someone that has a biology background on pheasants. If it's deer, we want deer. We want the implementation guy. We want everything to go together so you're getting the best plan or the best information you're getting. You're not getting the ego behind it saying, I'm the best deer hunter and you listen to me.
That's a great point. I forgot to bring that up, Jake. I guess go ahead, Joe.
I was going to agree with him as well. There's areas that I'm not the greatest in, and I'm not going to try to blow smoke up your butt and tell you that I am. I'm going to defer to somebody that knows that area. We all share, you know, back and forth. We talk daily, and if there's an idea or something, we find the right person to get the answer for us. So it's not, you know, we can go around all day long and figure it out. Nate, sorry, I cut you off.
Nope, that's fine. I think the group think tank, bringing those experts in, whether they're expert hunters.
Yeah, and I think the free consultation says it all. Mm-hmm. You know, when it comes to
you really can't get that anywhere.
Not in this category, because this category is all about some kind of magic pixie dust in a bottle, and we're not going to tell you until you give us money.
Correct.
And that goes against all of our beliefs at this table right here.
I can't agree more. And I think that's an inspiring quote that you're going to find that'll carry on over to the building of the relationship. And there may be a situation out there where Joe comes and you have questions about seed and the tractors, and you show up and they have everything. And basically you just have to say, okay, guys, don't plant this way with soil erosion, leave some filter strips, and then you get in your truck and you leave. They may never call you back, but at least they had a great experience with that. You know, it didn't do anything for Kanati. It didn't do anything for archery country, but you're still, you know, that's something you're willing to put your neck on the line, that there might not be something from it. But more times than not, 98% of the time when you look at things, there is going to be something that we can offer everybody, from leasing to owning to purchasing to just making things, you know, a big thing that you should take away from this podcast is there's programs out there. Like you say the word bee and butterfly. Who'd ever thought that is even a little thing, you know, or wildflowers in the backyard, or if you want to go big time and completely change the land. It may take a 2 or 3, 5 year program to get that done, but it is available. Everything is on the website. There is a link at the bottom of this. You guys, if you've not clicked on it, you need to click on it. Again, you can stop into any one of our shops and start the process sooner than later.
Yep, and it's kanatiland.com. And you can just go on there, see some information. You know, don't be afraid to send an email, pick up the phone. Got any questions, get a hold of us.
We nailed it on the head, boys. You did great. Glad to have you as guests and the future. We'll check in with you this fall and see how things are going, and then we'll have more of a detailed, you know, particular, like what have you planted already? What reports are we getting for harvest? You know, this, that, and everything else. But we want to thank each and every one of you for being listening to the Archery Country Podcast. Again, subscribe, check out the YouTube channel. There's going to be a lot of stuff from Kanati coming on there. Videos and links. Check out their website. On behalf of everybody, we'll see you on down the road.
Thank you for listening to Archery Country Podcast.